Welcome to another episode of Trees and Lines. Today we talked with Caitlyn Pollihan, CEO and Executive Director of the International Society of Arboriculture, about the goals of ISA, its partnership with the Utility Arborist Association, and trends she's seen from her unique lens in her position. Have a listen. Hope you enjoy. Welcome, Caitlyn.
Welcome.
I sure appreciate you taking time to join us today.
Absolutely.
Are you just back in town? Is that what I understood?
We just finished up our 99th annual international conference and the International Tree Climbing Championship. So I'm just back from those events in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exciting. I'm sure you're tired, and it was hard to get you to give up some time for us right away, but appreciate it.
Yeah.
Never hard.
Yeah. Hey, Caitlyn, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about ISA?
Absolutely. So I'm Caitlyn Pollihan. I'm the ISA CEO and Executive Director. I've been in this role for about 6 years now, 6 fast and furious years. It's been a great run with ISA, and I'm excited to say that organizationally, we continue to grow and expand into new places, and I truly enjoy representing 26,000 plus members in over 71 countries. Keeps my job busy and extremely interesting. My background is in communications and business and public policy. I worked for many years in forestry, working on natural resource legislation, along with any kind of programmatic and funding issues related to Western forests. And prior to that, I worked for the home builders on government affairs, working in green building and on OSHA regulations. So arboriculture was kind of a natural transition for me. Although I've always been on the administration side of the house, it's been really great still being able to use all of that tree knowledge that I gained in my 10 plus years working in forestry, now working in arboriculture. So that's probably a little bit about me, a little bit about the organization, but I'm sure you have more questions. We can dive in a bit more on ISA.
6 years. You've covered a lot of change in 6 years. It's amazing. Tej, 6 years ago, when they first brought her on, it was in a little town, Champaign, Illinois. And
really?
She had to move the entire organization, within a year or two?
It was about a year and a half since I moved physically to Champaign as well, that we made the move to Atlanta. Our board of directors did quite a lot of strategic visioning about where they wanted to see the organization in its next 100 years. And, being in a city that had global recognition, ease of access, a friendly business climate, really just made a lot of sense for the organization. And the board decided to make that shift. So yes, it was a big change for the organization and a big change for our members and our credential holders. But we've definitely seen how access and being in a city like Atlanta has allowed ISA to continue to grow its reach.
I was going to ask Caitlyn, just like, so it's a great organization. And obviously you guys have been growing a ton. What is like the most important sort of goal for the organization? Like, what do you there's obviously tons of things that you guys are focusing on, but like for you, what is the kind of the one measure of success?
It's a really great question because you're right. ISA has many priorities, like any association that has a large membership and also is the credentialing body for a profession would have. And I think sometimes it's almost seen like we have conflicting priorities because members may have a different set of needs or desires than our credential holders do. They depend on the credential potentially for their livelihood, right? So I think for me, the one kind of guiding principle or goal always goes back to the profession itself. ISA at our base, when we were incorporated in the US as a nonprofit 501c5 organization, we were developed and created to represent and promote the entire profession. So when I think about what I use as my check to say, yes, we're doing a good job, or ISA is meeting its mission, if the work that we're doing is promoting the entire profession, it doesn't matter if you're an ISA member, it doesn't matter if you're a member of a chapter, it doesn't matter if you're a credential holder. If you are somebody who's working in green industry, in arboriculture or urban forestry, and something that ISA has done has helped to either increase your knowledge, give you research that you were able to use in your daily job. You may be a credential holder. You might be a member and you use our magazine to help inform people in your organization about what other people in the green industry are doing in different countries. Whatever that is, that touch point, if ISA is making that touch point, that for me is a win. So, I think taking it to a broader place than just, are we growing our membership? Are we growing our number of credential holders? Those are really great benchmarks and things that show that we're doing something that people like. But at the end of the day, it's about the entire profession and making sure that we have future professionals, that we have retaining the professionals that we have currently in the workforce, and that ISA is seen as a global resource for people who are working in this space.
Yeah, so for something like, obviously there's very sad news coming out of Hawaii, and just and we've talked a little bit about this in recent podcasts where like Spain, Greece, like Canada, like I'm Canadian, so you're seeing forestry being brought to the national global light, right? And so when there are incidents around the world, and because you have a global organization, how does your organization sort of engage when there's like something like Hawaii happening? Like, how are you interacting in those environments?
Yeah. So it's interesting because with my background in forestry, one of the key things that I worked on for many years was wildfire funding and how the U.S. actually funds large-scale wildfires like the ones that we're seeing now, Canada and Hawaii and other places. So it is something that I tend to kind of follow when I see those kind of stories, and just because of my personal interest and past professional work in that space. ISA does get asked as an organization to weigh in on many topics, whether that's political type situations, whether it's natural disaster situations. And our general approach is that we help provide the resources that our members or our credential holders need in that area, whether we have utility companies responding to storm damage, or we have wildland firefighters who, have an ARB background who are in that space, that as an organization, we support what they need in order to be able to do their job. And then as an organization, we also have many employees who are engaged in different, social campaigns and work, on their own as individuals. And obviously we support that as a nonprofit that's based here in the US, but has a global reach. But we often don't weigh in externally through social media or those sites, just because we're focused in on making sure that we're available and supporting the professionals who need it.
Right. I see. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow, that makes sense.
So just how many members and countries these days?
Yeah, so we're at about 26,300 plus.
That's incredible.
It's amazing. And we have members in 71 countries. But then separate from that, we also have conferred almost 60 or over 60,000 credentials. So those credential holders, many of them are members, and we always want our credential holders to have the benefits of membership, to get them to earn CEUs and to allow them to access all of the kind of connectivity and peer engagement that happens within our global membership. But they may or may not be members themselves.
I mean, you guys do a great job on the credentialing. And so in terms of like, as the industry changes and as technologies become more advanced, how do you keep up with the modernization of your credential program?
So we have many volunteers and subject matter experts who contribute their time and expertise to ISA through our credentialing programs. And so not only do we have a credentialing council that's comprised of not only public members, but also key industry representatives, but then we have test committees and we have subject matter expert panels. And for every credential that ISA has, and qualification. So qualifications and certifications, I should say. We do a job task analysis every 5 years. So you know that no matter what credential it is that you hold or you're interested in, within a 5-year cycle, we have brought together not only a broad survey of the professionals and future professionals and what they think the credential should actually look at or include, make sure that it's still relevant to those people who are practicing, and make sure it's going to be relevant for future practitioners. The tests themselves are updated, potentially percentages of the domains that are being tested, potentially in fact, recently, the name of the credential was actually revised and rebranded in order to better show what the credential was to the public and to the employers and to the people who hold that certification. So we have an active program that is constantly growing and evolving based on what the industry needs. That's something that we feel very strongly about. The other thing that I think is important to think about relative to the ISA credentialing program is the fact that we do have our certified arborist has accreditation through ANAB. So it actually is accredited to meet the International Standards Organization requirements, which ISA invests a significant amount of time and really financial resources to ensure that we are meeting that high bar so that our ISA certified arborists are able to say that they hold an ANAB accredited certification that meets those ISO standards.
Oh, that's incredible.
So I noticed a lot in the utility industry, which most of the listeners are. I'm sure there's quite a few that aren't clear the difference between UAA and ISA. And everybody needs to realize that the utility arborists, the certification programs are ISA programs.
Absolutely. And in fact, we have just utility specialists alone are over 2,700 strong. So, when you look at our certified arborists, we have over 37,000 ISA certified arborists, and then we have 2,700 plus utility specialists. And ISA is a partner with UAA, and they are a close partner. We have co-located in the past. We have kind of grown up together. And I will say that in my tenure with ISA, that there have been leaps and bounds changes and improvements in how we work with our close partners. And UAA is no exception. Dennis Fallon, the CEO there, and myself talk often, just saw him in Albuquerque. And we want to make sure that the work that our two organizations are doing is complementary and that there's this understanding that our organizations are working together to ensure that UAA, ISA, and all of our members, whether they're joint members or not, are getting what they need from both of our associations.
All of the key best management practices are published by the ISA, right? The utility pruning of trees, the IVM, utility tree risk assessment, and the tree risk assessment, and closed chain of custody for herbicide use. All of them are products that ISA and UAA work together on.
That's true. And in fact, UAA provided some extra funding in order to be able to digitize some of those resources so that their members who wanted them digitally were able to get it in a very short order. So we definitely work together on all fronts to make sure that whether those members or credential holders are UAA members only or ISA members only or both, that they're getting what they need in order to be able to do their jobs.
So because you guys are a nonprofit, and I know I also, with my business partner, started a nonprofit 12 years ago. And so fundraising is always fun, challenging, and there's never seems to be enough. So, and I know you guys have great partners. So can you talk to us a little bit about like the funding process for you guys and, the mandates that go with that, and how challenging is that in an environment like we're in now economically?
Yeah, so ISA is a special type of nonprofit in the U.S. tax law. We're actually a 501c5.
I heard you say that, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
not a C3, which is your traditional charitable type organization. ISA has a different structure that is, they call it an agriculture union in essence. And we're actually set up to receive the tax benefits of being a nonprofit, but we are structured to represent almost like a union. It's the same designation as labor unions are. So we represent the entire profession according to the tax law of the United States. So what that means is we can accept donations, but we can also accept membership dues, and we can accept we can operate kind of outside of that more charitable donation space. So we can contribute to political campaigns if we chose to, which we don't. So it's a little bit of a different type structure. ISA traditionally has not accepted individual donations. I'm going to use Tree Fund as an example. They often will receive individual donations from somebody like Phil, who wants to support arboricultural research and wants to send $500 in to that goal. ISA doesn't accept those kind of donations. So it does mean that we aren't necessarily having to go out for individual donation solicitation, which is a good thing, I think, for us. Where we concentrate is really on bringing in funds that support the work that we do and then spending them in order to further build the programs themselves. So we really want to ensure that when we have credentialing revenue, that credentialing revenue goes into our credentialing program. So perfect example, our three main places that ISA actually brings in revenue is credentialing, membership, and then the sale of our education products and resources. And we put all of those funds back into the organization itself. We even send 40 to 60% of every dollar that we earn for our credentialing program goes directly back to the chapters and the professional affiliate organizations that help support that program. So if we earn $3 million in our credentialing program, about 1.4 will go directly out to the chapters as we earn it. So that helps fund the work that they do to support the program itself. And I don't think a lot of people know that. That's one of the beneficial relationships that we have with groups like UAA. So UAA receives revenue from every single individual who becomes a utility specialist. The Society of Municipal Arborists receives revenue for every individual who becomes a municipal specialist. And that's a really beneficial thing because it helps support the work that UAA does to code programs for CEUs, to provide some customer support for credential holders, and to make sure that we're all actively promoting the fact that we want people to earn those certifications to show that they have a minimum level of knowledge in that industry.
It really is an interesting model, how it encourages the partners. So UAA is a partner, SMA, Society of Municipal Arborists. I think there's two others.
There are the Society of Commercial Arborists, and then AREA, which is the research group.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
How big is your organization? Sorry, Phil. just, I'm so fascinated with your organizational structure. I'm like, wow, it's so efficiently run. How big is ISA, like your actual team that's delivering all of this?
Yeah, so we have about 33 full-time employees that are based out of Atlanta. And then we have an agreement with a company that handles all of our shipping of our product and storage of our product, as well as some of our frontline customer service. We have a set-aside team of 8 people who are at that organization who only work on ISA-related work. So,
wow, okay. Sorry,
and your big event of the year just ended. And Tej, it's the part of it's the International Tree Climbing Competition. And if you haven't experienced that, next year we need to go. It is really something to see.
Next year is the 100-year anniversary of ISA. So if you're going to come to an event, that's the one to come to.
100 years. Wow.
Do you know where it's going to be yet?
I do. It's going to be in Atlanta.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
So in our hometown.
That's incredible.
It is really a cool event to watch. So tell us about the overall conference.
Yeah. So this last conference was great. We were in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and which was a lovely spot, Southwest United States. So it was a new place for many of our attendees to explore. And ISA definitely sees when we hold meetings, because we move them around the world, that we kind of have this target of attendees that may or may not have ever been to an ISA conference, may or may not have ever been to even a chapter event, but because we now are going to be somewhere that's drivable or a reasonable quick flight, they're able to come and have that experience. So we had I think we ended up at over 880 attendees in the conference itself. Obviously, we have the International Tree Climbing Championship, which is a whole nother event, but held a few days before. We had over 100 volunteers who came in and helped to run that event, along with over 80 competitors from around the world, 22 countries. So we had a huge representation from our kind of global community. That's something that's really important as we do move our conference, is we want to make sure that we're having events that people are able to experience. So this coming year we'll be in Atlanta, and then the following year we're going to be in New Zealand, actually, in 2025.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good.
Is just shifting gears a little bit. So you sit at you have a very interesting lens, right? You can see from a credentialing perspective, you see basically the employee base for many markets. And then from a political perspective, everything that's happening, in the industry right now, there's all kinds of narratives and shifts and focus and different approaches to things. When you step back and you see what's happening in, let's say, the utility industry, where there's obviously like a lot of focus right now, what are some of the things that concern you, right? As a leader of a large organization that works so closely with all of these different stakeholders, like, is there something that you're seeing as a trend that you're like, I'm a little concerned here, and I'm going to have to work within my organization to be a player to help support a better trend? Is there something that you're seeing out there?
I think one of the trends that I'm seeing, and it's in the utility space, but it's also, I think, in other places as well, is just this shortened time frame for everything, or increased need that isn't being met. And so I feel like what I see, utility is a great example. There just are not enough people to do the amount of work that's needed right now or in the future. And that there's this condensed timeline that people are feeling like they have to meet to address the issue. And so, yes, that's exactly what it feels like, is this constant scramble to find people and train them and set them up for success, and then find the next person and train them and set them up for success. And so I think as I'm looking at kind of longer term trends or longer term things that ISA as an organization partnering with UAA needs to look at, is like, how do you provide a support that helps our members and then the organizations that they work for? Because UAA and ISA are individual membership organizations. How do we support the people who are either currently in that hamster wheel or who are going to be entering into that? And how do we help give them what they need to be able to be supported throughout that shortened time frame of going from one place to the next? What that really looks like for people who are actually in the industry. And that's not necessarily, it's not like we're going to be so data driven over the next 5 years that this is what ISA is going to do to set us up for success that way. Or, the use of different kind of technologies like drones or new machinery or different techniques, or it's not so specific as that, but it's more just this feeling of, time and
time
and need.
Time and need.
Yeah,
Wow.
add all the drones, all the technology. You still need men and women in the tree. And where are they coming from? And how can you get them out there fast enough, trained to work safely?
That's exactly right. And there are resources that the government's putting towards this that, in the US, but also in other countries. It's not something that people are not aware of or trying to figure out how to open the doors wider so that you get in people who may not have ever considered vegetation management as a career path, but clearly it's one that can provide a family sustaining wage, that is a needed, important part of our, profession. And so I think it's just figuring out where people are going to be coming from in the future and convincing them that these are jobs that, are excellent opportunities.
Before we leave you today, just on a more personal note, again, it sounds like you've done such a fantastic job leading the ISA and this organization. For you personally as a leader, do you have mentors or people that you go to that can help you, steer complex problems and manage a large organization and a huge member base? Like, where do you, Caitlyn, personally go to, seek counsel?
Yeah, so I definitely have had people throughout my career that I've been able to rely on like that. And it's important because these are high stress jobs, right? And I personally spend a lot of time working and I love what I do, but you always have to have somebody who can you can test your theories on or talk about, making your goals more clear, or hey, this is my idea. Is this really going to work? And so, yes, I definitely have those resources. I would say I'm lucky in the sense that we have an ISA board of directors of 15 members that really have a diverse footprint. So from all over the world. And I have a really great working relationship with them. And so I do have the opportunity to test a lot of my ideas or work with them in an iterative sense on some of the work that ISA is doing. And they set the strategy, right? I'm just in charge of making sure that we put the operations and the work behind it to make that happen. But they're a great resource for me to bounce things off of as we move forward. So that's one group. And then, I have peers who, like Dave White from TCIA, Terry Baker from SAF, some of the folks at Arbor Day. Dan Lamb and I have worked together for many years, and I have the utmost respect for his approach and how he thinks things through. So there's definitely those kind of relationships that you build over the years and that you have the ability to kind of, toss ideas around with.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to hear that as a lesson. Find great mentors.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Because you need it.
Caitlyn, this was awesome today. Is there kind of something that you want to kind of leave the audience with as it relates to the ISA in terms of, they obviously should have a great understanding of the ISA after today, but is there something that you want to sort of put out there for the audience as it relates to the organization?
I think the one thing that I would leave people with, especially knowing that so many of your listeners work in the vegetation management space and utility, I think that ISA has continued to evolve over the last 100 years. And we're going into this huge celebration of this like long tenured organization that truly was created to represent the professionals. And utility arborists and vegetation management professionals are an important part of that membership, and that we've recommitted to building collaboration and to ensuring that as ISA moves into its next 100 years, that we are truly showing up for our partners. And UAA is a really important partner of our organization. And so I think I would just leave everybody with kind of this sense that there is this continued intentional focus on making sure that UAA and ISA are partnering to support the professionals that are working in this space.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
Caitlyn, I'm not there
fantastic.
anymore, but when I did, I saw that in action. I always appreciated that. So, and I miss working with you.
I know. I miss working with you too. Dennis has been wonderful and has definitely been leading the organization, working with the board in great directions. And he's building off of the work that you did when you were in that seat.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see where the collaboration goes. It's just a great organization. I think I attended
fantastic.
my first one in 1980, my first conference. So
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, that is nice. I was 3.
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks.
Sorry, Phil. Caitlyn, thanks again for today. It was an absolute joy having you. It was such an interesting conversation. Thank you so much for making time.
Thanks.
I appreciate
I
it.
do appreciate it, Caitlyn. Thanks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Same.
Fantastic.
That's it for this episode of Trees and Lines, brought to you by Iapetus Holdings. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. If you have any questions or comments on any of our episodes or ideas for topics or guests, we'd love to hear from you. Please contact us at treesandlines@iapetusllc.com. We'll chat with you soon.